Hi there. So I haven't made a video in quite a while. I actually started school at the beginning of June and it's been going really well. I'm studying to become an esthetician, something that I've wanted to do for several years now. I finally was able to make it all happen, so I'm really excited about that. The only bummer is that I've had to cut my nails. So this is my new nail length. Woo! Basically, they can't extend beyond the end of the nail. So that's why I've had to cut them down, because when you're working on people's faces, and that's what estheticians do, by the way, they give facials and they work with the skin basically. And so when you're touching people's faces, you just can't run the risk of scratching them with longer nails. So I'll be doing a lot of short nail tutorials from now on. I have to admit I was a little bummed at having to cut my nails, but it's all for a good cause, so no problem. Basically, I wanted to put together some information for anyone who has chronic anemia and is concerned about caring for their nails. I have had iron deficiency anemia, the most common type of anemia, since I was a child, and it predisposes me to a few issues with my nails, so I thought maybe the treatments that I've come up with will benefit you. And basically your blood has a lower than normal count of red blood cells. It may be that you don't get enough iron in your diet, or you do get enough iron but you lack the receptors that properly translate the iron in the food that you eat to iron that your body can use, and that will result in a drop in your red blood cell count. Basically, as a result, the symptoms of anemia are usually related to oxygen deprivation, because red blood cells carry oxygen throughout your blood. And so you might experience shortness of breath, tiring quickly, even dizziness or headaches. Those are all complications for anyone who is chronically anemic. Basically, a lot of those things will crop up if you get really sick with something else, or you let yourself go and don't stay on top of caring for your anemia. For instance, I got really ill toward the end of the last decade, and basically as a result of that, my red blood cell count dropped very low, and I could barely breathe or walk up a flight of steps without panting. It was very scary. Basically, long-term anemia, if you don't take care of yourself, it can damage your organs, it can weaken your immune system, but happily, unless you have one of the more severe forms of anemia, you can usually keep it in check with diet and exercise. How do you treat anemia? Well, the only reliable treatment for anemia is to be under a doctor's supervision. They'll test your blood count annually. They'll make sure that you're staying within acceptable ranges. And like I've said, you can control anemia through diet and lifestyle. And if it doesn't keep your counts in line, the doctor will prescribe you pills or shots to supplement you. But I really want to stress, it's very important never ever to try and self-medicate, because the symptoms of anemia are very common to other illnesses. If you mistake them for anemia when they are not the problem, an overdose of iron can quickly poison you, so that's something to be aware of. As for dieting, most anemics do a combination of eating iron-rich foods like lean animal protein, nuts, and greens like spinach. And they also eat foods that are rich in vitamins C and B, like oranges, whole grains, and beans. The fatty acids that are found in fish also help. All those things work together. And basically, the reason why we do that is because vitamin C and B and the fatty acids, they all help you absorb iron better. And if your problem is that you don't absorb iron well, and that's why your red blood cell count is low, then just eating more iron really isn't going to help you. You have to do something to help your body absorb the iron that you're eating. So now that we have a bit of background information, I want to talk about caring for your nails. Even when you have your anemia under control, it can cause problems with your nails, especially over time. a common problem is something called spoon nails, and it basically just describes horizontal ridging on your nails. It's not terribly common. It's usually a sign of anemia, either anemia that you've experienced in the past or anemia that you're experiencing currently. Let me show you an example. On my thumb, I'm going to turn it in the light, hopefully you can see, I have horizontal ridges. They're kind of like deep impressions in the thumb. There we go. And if you have enough of this going on, it can actually create a really strong dip in the thumb that's like a little well, and that's why it's called a spoon. But basically here you can see that although I have many ridges, they're not too deep. They actually were a lot deeper when I was younger, but I've kept my diet and everything in check so that they've gotten better over time. But it is annoying enough that it makes applying nail polish a little difficult, and it makes my nail lift up at the end of my thumb when I grow it out past the end of the nail. So that's the only annoying thing about them. I really don't know of a fix for this other than a long-term change in your diet, i.e. Eating those iron-rich foods, making sure that you're eating good supporting foods, and meeting with your doctor annually to make sure that you're keeping your red blood cell counts within range. There's also vertical ridging, which you can see on my thumb, but you can also see this on my fingers. I'm zoomed in as much as I can zoom in without the camera freaking out, so hopefully you can see what I mean. But I haven't done anything to my vertical ridges, and you can see they're pretty deep. This is just something that's going to happen if you are anemic, and this happens pretty commonly even if you're not anemic. It's just, anemics tend to have a little bit deeper ridging going on. I have found for vertical ridging, don't try to plane those ridges down to a completely flat surface. All you're going to do is encourage splitting, breaking, and brittle, thin nails. You don't want that. So what I do is I use a file, kind of like this one, where it has the different sides to it. And I take the first one that says even, and what I'll do is just on my nail, I'll just do it back and forth just a few times, just like that. That's it. You can see that that did not make it flat by any stretch of the imagination, but what it does do is it takes the edge off, and it just makes it a little bit smoother. And then what I do is I use a ridge filler to account for the rest of this. I love the Sinful Colors base coat. That's what I use most often. It will fill in all the ridges and make it a nice smooth surface for when I put on my nail color. And that's the fix that I use for vertical ridging. Thin or brittle nails. That's a problem for a lot of people, not just anemics. For thin or brittle nails, I recommend a good diet to start, and then careful and gentle nail care as a supplement. Don't stress your nails out by drying them out unduly. So for instance, try to avoid using pure acetone. Keep them very moisturized, so when you use moisturizer, work it up over your nails and into the nail bed. And if you are shaping your nails with a file, don't use an aggressive back and forth motion. Use something a lot more gentle. For instance, you could do it in one direction like this and just work your way around the nail. Or you can, if you have it available to you, you can use a glass file, like something like this, a glass or crystal file, which tends to be a little bit more gentle, and use that on the nail. If you use clippers to shape your nails, use short clips. So, I'm sorry I don't have any available, but you can kind of clip clip to make the shape of your nail rather than just, clipping right across the nail, which encourages splitting and breaking on the sides. It can, encourage your nails to split all the way down. So, again, just be careful, be gentle with your nails. Try to keep them, well moisturized, and very important, do not cut your cuticles, because that is your infection control. It's your barrier. It's what keeps your nails healthy. If you would like to, you can gently push them back, but don't cut or scrape at your cuticles, because that's what helps to keep your nail bed healthy and keep your nails growing strong. Okay, now another thing that you might see with anemia is something that I call nail blotching. There is a scientific term for it. I don't know what it is, but basically it will look like very pale or dark spots underneath your nail bed. I have not experienced this, so I don't have a treatment for it, but I would say if you see that happening, take all product off of your nails, even strengtheners and base coats, and visit your doctor, because that could be a sign of something else going on. Those are just some common issues and some treatments for them, and just some general nail care, I suppose. But yeah, I hope you found these tips helpful. Please, again, remember, I'm not a doctor, so this is not medical advice to help you self-medicate. It's mostly just some tips for people who know that they're anemic and they want to deal with any nail problems that they've been experiencing. Of course, if you do recognize any of these symptoms or nail problems in yourself and you've never been tested for anemia, I really urge you to go ahead and see your doctor and just get a test and see where your red blood cell count is. These sorts of symptoms could also be an indication of something else going on, so it's a really good idea to, just check up and see what's what. Thank you for listening, and I hope you got some useful information, and I'll talk to you again real soon.